All right, everyone. Welcome to Messaging Made Easy with Human Design. I'm going to take a couple of minutes for people to be coming on live. I'm so glad that you made it here this evening. I know that your time is really valuable. So I so appreciate it that you've set aside this time to spend with me tonight. And I just want to orient you a little bit to Zoom. You'll see, if you look down at the bar down at the bottom, you'll see a chat feature. And if you want to open that up, you can go ahead, and I invite you to put in your name and where you're coming in from. I always like to know, people's names and where they are, so that it feels a little more, I get to connect with you a little bit more. And then also down there, you'll see a little Q&A box, and you can click on that when you have a question. So I would invite you to write down your questions as we go along and just put them in there, and it'll be easier for me to find them later on when I come back to do questions than if they're in the chat. And I do invite you to put your ahas in the chat, or things that you're thinking about. Hey, hi Terry, hi Mary Rose, hi Robin, hi Dawn, hi Teresa, hi Susan, hi Michelle, hi Serena, hi Kim Joy, hi Norma, hi Susan, oh my good friend, and Linda, and Andrea, and oh my goodness, we've got more and more coming online. Please do, hi Suzanne. And people are coming in from all over. We've got New Mexico and Hawaii and Georgia and Ojai and Simi Valley and Texas, and Detroit, and oh, this is great. So Vancouver, Austin, Australia. That's great. I'm so glad that you're here. Please do keep introducing yourself. There's Kate and Pam from Maine. I'm delighted that you're here. I really am. Like I said, I know that your time is really valuable, and that you have decided to come and spend this time with me. It really touches my heart. So I'm delighted to be able to offer what we're going to talk about today. I keep people seeing there's Shauna and Josephina and Tammy, and Nancy and Vanessa. Yay. Okay. I'm just wondering hold on a second. I'm not quite sure what that's about. Okay. I'm always going to keep getting oriented to Zoom here, so give me a minute. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're a few minutes after. We're already have a nice group here. So let me just see if I can close this. Close that part. Yes. Okay, great. Perfect. All right. And Sunny, hi Sunny. So I'm delighted. I'm delighted that you're here. This is Messaging Made Easy with Human Design. And this is actually a topic is super close to my heart now. I've been diving into it for a couple of months and really working on it. And so I want to start out just by asking you a few questions. Okay, and I want you to just feel in if any of these resonate for you. And those of you who are generators or manifesting generators, if you already know this about yourself, you can see if you get this inside when I ask you any of these. So do you ever feel like kind of contracted or afraid when people ask you what you do? Because even though you're super accomplished at what you do, and you've helped lots of people maybe already, you stumble over being able to do that. And maybe you feel squeezed into a box or get really frustrated because you're trying to express the richness of what it is that you have to offer people. After all, you are a magnificent being. You probably have multiple certifications. You've been growing and evolving your whole life. You have so much to offer. And you might feel like, oh gosh, I just feel like I have to squeeze myself into some kind of a marketing message, right? In order, when somebody asks you what you do. Or maybe you're at the point where you feel like you've got your elevator speech, so-called elevator speech down, or your attraction statement. These are some of the jargon that gets used in marketing, right? Around the what do you do statement. And so maybe you feel like you're pretty good at that part. And yet you still have the sense that there's more to all of this than what you're doing. There must be a way to make it easier. There must be a way to make it feel more comfortable, more authentic, more who you truly are, and more in alignment with yourself. So that has always been one of the key things that I've taught all the years that I have been coaching people with business is how can you really be yourself? How can you really be yourself? How can you own your true value? How can you bring forth your gifts, talents, skills, and life experience, what I always called your soul signature? And now human design is a core component of your soul signature because the human design chart gives us a map to your gifts and talents, what you came in with when you were born. It's fascinating and uncannily accurate. And so then I put that together with the other aspects of your soul signature. And that's always what I have taught people because I don't believe in being put into a box. I can't be put into a box. It has never happened. And anytime it's ever felt that way, I've jumped out pretty fast. So if you relate to any of that, I totally understand. And it can be kind of ouchy, right? If, here you are, you're sharing something about what you're doing and maybe people's eyes glaze over or they turn away or they change the subject and you just feel like, wow, I really missed an opportunity there. So we're going to talk about the different aspects of that tonight. We're going to talk about the piece that has to do with you and your energy, right? You and your energy, and then a bit about what you say, the words, and what you're communicating. So first of all, what I want to do, hi, Teresa. I'm not going to get distracted with the chat. So please, if I don't respond to what you put in the chat, don't feel bad. I will lose my train of thought if I do that. So some of you know me, some of you I'm new to. So I want to just tell you a little bit about myself as we dive in here. And I have done a number of different things in my adult life. I started out, my first career was being an Ivy League professor in women and gender studies at Columbia University in New York. And eventually I started to feel like I was in a box there. And so I bailed out. I went into network marketing in the health and wellness field. I became very successful in that field rather rapidly, but I got pretty burnt out. I moved into spiritual healing, became a clarity breathwork practitioner and trainer. Love that work, still do that work. Feel like it is one of the most powerful ways of releasing the inner blocks that we have. And so I always like to provide that in all of the courses and to my clients because I think it's such an incredible tool. But then eventually I became a business coach for people in the healing arts and the transformational fields. People who are practitioners, teachers, and leaders who were dedicated to the transformation of their clients and their students, their workshop participants, the people they came in contact with. I have always, even when I was an Ivy League professor, have been very, very interested in consciousness. And, back when I was growing up, when I was a teenager, my mom was a feminist, it was called consciousness raising for a reason. And so I came of age in consciousness raising. And so I've really been about that. No matter what particular field I was in, I was always engaged in consciousness raising, understanding consciousness. And so I did that a lot when I was a business coach, really help people make that transition from working for other people into creating their own small businesses. I did that when I was in network marketing also. I really love to help women to own their value, learn how to make money, feel that like they can be financially empowered. Those are things that I think are very, very important on our planet right now. And I'm delighted to help people with that. But one of the things that happened with me is I grew a really big business really fast. I'm a pretty driven person, and I had a very go for it type of business coach, and so I went for it, and I created a business coaching practice that created, gosh, I think it was about $1.7 million in 4 years, 4.5 years, and it was great. Only I got burned out. There are a number of reasons for that. But one of the big ones I've discovered now is that I was not working in alignment with my human design. So when I got really burned out at that time, that was a number of years ago. That was about 4 years ago. I stepped away from my practice. I went through a divorce. I did a lot of soul searching. I think anyone who is in the transformational fields as a teacher, as a practitioner, who supports people in that, we have to do our own work all the time also, right? So even though I have a fairly regular way that I do that, this was a big deep dive. Into what is it that I'm about and why do I keep really getting burnt out? Because in every one of those professions, I did kind of hit a wall, and I didn't know why. Enter human design during this time when I was doing this soul searching and really looking for what was next for me. And honestly, when I first came across human design, I dismissed it. This was actually when I was still doing business coaching. And I dismissed it because I thought, well, this can't possibly be accurate. I mean, this is not who I am. Because it was confrontational to my self-concept. And I was not ready to hear it. And one of the things I've learned from design is it's all about timing. All about timing, and it wasn't the right time. So when it came around again, it was the right time. And the first thing that I learned is that I'm a generator. Those of you who are familiar with human design know what that means. Don't worry about it if you don't. But the main thing that I learned is I'm not designed to initiate. I'm not designed to initiate. I'm not designed to initiate. And those of you who are into astrology, I'm an Aries sun. And so I always thought I was designed to initiate because that's what Aries do. So when I learned that I'm not designed to initiate, I'm designed to respond, I thought, okay, well, initiating a lot has brought me accomplishment and success, and at a pretty heavy personal cost, fair amount of burnout. How can I do things differently? Maybe this system has something to offer me. And there was a way that in my body, even at that time, I got a big yes. Like, try it. And I love what Ra, the man who received and then developed this system, said. He's like, I'm not here to convince anybody. Human design is only for a certain portion of the population, people who are really dedicated to their personal growth and who are on a very strong evolutionary path. Those are the people who will be drawn to this work. And I believe that that's true. And he said, so I'm not here to convince anybody. He said, my suggestion, my invitation to you is to experiment and see what happens. So I like that because I've always said, following along Caroline Casey, say, believe nothing, entertain possibilities. So I thought, all right, I'm going to give it a try. And what I discovered was as I stopped initiating, I continued to be engaged in the things that I was interested in. And I discovered fairly rapidly that I had all kinds of things to respond to. I mean, many, many, many things to respond to all the time. I didn't have to wait very long. It wasn't like I had to wait weeks and months and years for something to respond to. Actually, things were showing up in my outer reality pretty frequently that I would respond to. And as soon as I really learned my strategy, which is to respond, and also my authority, which is my sacral authority, how to be able to get my own inner guidance to make decisions, everything changed for me. And I started to love design so much that I decided to become a human design specialist. So that's what I've been doing for the last year. And I'm really delighted to have worked with Karen Curry Parker. Some of you know her. She is a phenomenal human design specialist. She worked with Ra. She's been doing this for over 25 years. And she's an excellent teacher and an excellent coach. And I do feel that one of the things, the benefits that I got working with her is that because she is a life coach and has been for 20 years, as well as a human design specialist, the way that we support people around human design is more actionable, it's more understandable, we can translate it more easily. We're really about how do you make this practical in your life? It's not about trying to help you fall in love with the system, although that does happen for plenty of people. But it is about how do you take what you learn and apply it to your life. And so that is really what this course is, this webinar tonight is all about, is how do you take human design and apply it to your life in a really effective way to help you to build your business and to engage with your life. So I want to say one thing about this, because I know that most of the people in my community are people who have small businesses. They may just be practitioners. They may just have clients. Some of them are teachers. Some are leaders in larger groups. But I really think that the material that we're covering tonight, and also in the program that I will offer to you a little bit later, I'll tell you more about it in a little bit, is relevant for anyone. Whether if you work in a company, really knowing what kind of messages you're sending out all the time is something very important to know. Knowing how to master the energetics of your communication style is important no matter what kind of work you're in. So I want to just say, if you don't fit into that small entrepreneur, practitioner place in whatever your work is, that's okay, because I really do think that this material is vital for just about everybody. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm just looking at my notes here. So I'm going to look at my notes. What I want to do is give just a little bit of an introduction to human design, because some of you, I think, are pretty new to human design. And some of you know human design and are more new to me and new to business. So it's an interesting mix of people that we've got on the line, and I'm happy about that. Okay, so let's see, how am I going to do this? I'm going to move this up here, and I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share here. Okay, I think that works. Okay. All right, so you should be able to see my slides here. So this is known as the Human Design Body Graph, okay? The image on the right is a blank body graph, okay? Everyone has the entire body graph, okay? Sometimes when people look at their chart and they see that they have white parts in their chart, they think, oh, I don't have that part. It's not true. Everybody has the whole chart. And so you have access to all of the different archetypal energies that are represented in the chart. There are 9 centers, 36 channels, and 64 gates. So there's a lot of different nuances to the chart, if you will. And that's why it is a complex system. And there's actually even more complication to that, depending on the planets and what lines of the hexagram. And anyway, I'm not going to go into all that. That's a big rabbit hole. But so this is what the chart looks like when it's not for a particular person for their birth time. And then on the image on the left is actually my human design chart. And you'll see some parts of it are colored in and some parts are white. The parts that are colored in, we call defined. And those are the types of energies that I have ongoing, ready, reliable access to that energy. Okay, pretty much all the time. And I have a relatively consistent, even fixed way of experiencing those energies. I do like to emphasize that even those energies are mutable, meaning that how you experience them can change as you learn more about them. If you want to elevate them to a higher frequency or a higher vibration, you totally can do that. It does take focus and attention, but you can do that. The white parts are what we call open. And those are the parts that you pick up from other people and then you amplify. So you get to experience what those energies are like primarily when you're around other people. So you do get to experience all of the chart. And this is one of the beautiful ways that we interact as human beings, is the ways that our energies come together and we get to hook up to all of the different aspects of the design and of the design chart. Let me see, do I want to say anything about that? Let me just make a comment about the chart in general, which is that it really is a template of an evolving humanity. I don't have time to go into that, excuse me, in depth today. I do have a video you can watch about that if you're interested in that. I can let you know how to get that later. Excuse me, I'm just going to get a sip of water. But it is an evolving humanity, and then how each of our own charts shows up, where we're defined and where we're open, actually gives us a curriculum for our own soul development. And so it shows us how we can really evolve, can show us how we can be moving into a higher consciousness. And as I told you before, I've always been interested in consciousness, so this really captured my attention. Okay. So this is the whole human design mandala. And the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching and their numbers and the numbers that they correlate to, the gates of the chart, are all around the outside. And then you can see the body graph in the middle. Here are where the planets are. I'm not going to go into any depth about that, but I think it's cool, so I wanted to show it to you. So I decided to make a new image of the chart. And this isn't really actually the chart, because as you'll see, the gates aren't on here. But I was always kind of bugged by the fact that the chart doesn't look like a person, right? It doesn't look like a person. It doesn't look like a body. And the centers are outside of the body. If you go back and look here for a second, you'll see, right? The centers are actually outside the body. They're not inside, okay? It's a kind of nondescript person, but it definitely doesn't look like a human being. So I was like, let's make one that looks like a gorgeous woman. So this is what I did. Okay, so this is part of my contribution to the evolution of human design. So we all have an energy that we're putting out all the time. This is one of the key pieces of your messaging, is to be able to know what is the energy that you're sending out all the time. As I mentioned before, the parts of your chart that are colored in are the types of energy that you have ongoing, ready, reliable access to all the time. And that is something that you're telegraphing out, like a radio station or TV station. I don't even know if we have those anymore. But radio station, right? It's just always sending out this message, okay? And so that is an energy that we're constantly sending out, is whatever our definition is, okay? Then what our relationship to our definition is. I have done a lot of readings lately, and what I can tell you is many, many people suppress their energy. And we suppress our energy for all kinds of different reasons. And I will talk about this a little bit later. But when we suppress our energy, it doesn't go away. It just gets kind of trapped, right? And then we're sending out a kind of dissonant message, because, on the one hand, there's this energy inside us, which is going out, right? But then we're trying to clamp it down. So there's this going out, pushing down, going out, pushing down, right? And this can be subtle, or it can be more obvious. I mean, sometimes if you've been around people and you're like, wow, I can really feel like there's something kind of off about that person, that might be one of the things that's happening. It also happens when people try to take on things that aren't theirs, right? I mean, it turns out I tried to be a manifester and I'm not a manifester. And so there was something kind of off in my energy, because I wasn't living in alignment with my design. I had to learn how to be a generator and learn how to respond instead of how to initiate. So that was my big wake-up call. So what is it going to be for you, right? What is it going to be for you when you discover your design and you learn your design and you learn how it applies to your life? Interesting, right? Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about this messaging piece and how this works as far as building our radiance, if you will, and our reach. So here's you, if you will, in the middle of your own aura, right? This is your own energy, right? And you can learn to have your energy be bigger. And I think the more and more aligned you are with your own design, the more clear, the more bright, the more radiant, the more brilliant, and the more attractive is going to be your energy, because you're not going to have that dissonance, right? Of some of it being suppressed and it trying to get out, but it being suppressed, okay? So you're going to be much more radiant and much more attractive when you're in alignment with that. The other piece with this, it really has to do with a marketing piece that I want to share with you. So when you're in your own sphere, right, which is this yellow piece, this is you and this is your sphere, okay? And so you're there with your knowledge, with your life experience, with the gifts and talents that you brought in, right? And so this is all the richness and the vastness of who you are. And then if you consider this blue circle to be the people who know you, the people who have worked with you, the people who are, in kind of in the range of where you are come into personal contact with, if you will, okay? So those are people that when you just reach out a little bit beyond, your home, they're right there. Then this green part are the people that you want to reach that you haven't reached yet, right? They're the people who are out there that are beyond the people who already know who you are, who already know what you do, who already have maybe a sense of what the value is of what you provide and who are interested in what you do. Okay. So one way to think about this is there are lots of people who are out there. Some of them are close in, right? This could be like a beloved who's very close, right in to your energy field. There's other people who, like I said, are close to you in your life in a variety of different ways. And then there's all kinds of people who are out. And so when it comes to messaging for your business, okay, we need to have different ways of knowing how to communicate with people depending on how close they are or how far out they are from our immediate environment, if that makes sense, right? Because, for example, the people who are really close in, or the people who, like you went to school with, maybe in your in the certifications that you have, like the people that I trained in breath work, we have a type of jargon or a type of language that we use, okay? Or even in human design, we have a type of language or jargon that we use that people who've studied it know what it is, but other people don't know what it is, right? And so we need to be able to find ways to translate that messaging, if you will, or that language out. And what tends to happen for people some of the time is that as you're moving out from that sphere of influence where you're really comfortable and you're known, is you can get more and more uncertain, become less confident, you become more anxious, because you just kind of don't know what to do at that point. And that's really what we're going to be talking about. Okay. So I do want to talk about these 4 cornerstones of messaging, which is something that I had mentioned to you in the promotions that I did for this call. So the 4 cornerstones of messaging are all about you, okay? These are all about you. These are all about what you have command over, okay? There's lots and lots of things in life that we don't have any command over. Like we don't, right? And we don't have any command over other people or how they respond to what we do. All we have is the ability to focus on ourselves. And so these 4 cornerstones of messaging have to do with what we can do. So the first one is kind of obvious, and it's the thing that most people think about when they think about messaging, which is the language, the words, the verbal communication. What are the words that I actually use? Those are important. They are important. But some of you may have heard that up to 80%, I think it's even more than that, of communication is nonverbal. It's not the words. Okay, well, so then what is it? Well, if we're looking at things like your website, okay, or your materials, it has to do with your images, your colors, your design. Okay, we live in a very web-saturated world. So these things are important, like how are you representing yourself visually? And that's one of the reasons that I created that new image of the chart, because I wanted to represent myself and my understanding, my translation of human design in a slightly different way, right? So this really has to do with what we call your visual identity of your brand. That's a technical term, but just think of it as how you're showing up in the web or any of the materials that you have. But then when it comes to you, it's your tone, like your tone of voice, right? And your body language, particularly your facial expressions. These things are hugely important in terms of your messaging, what you're transmitting, what your communication is. And all of that, every single bit of what I just mentioned, is based on your frequency, your energy, your vibration, whatever you want to call it, right? What is the message that you are sending out energetically? Okay? Because that's going to affect your tone of voice. Like if I were really feeling like not very certain and I was kind of afraid of what you were going to think of me, and I was, feeling a little trepidatious right now, I might start sounding like this or looking away from the camera. And then how would you take what it was that I was saying? Would you believe me? Would you trust me? Would you want to listen to me? Right? And that all has to do from my emotions. It has to do with whether or not I feel my own power, whether or not I own my own true value, whether or not I'm confident in what it is that I have to provide for you, whether I know that I can support you with whatever the challenges are that you have in your life that I know I'm suited to support you with, right? That's all in my inner landscape. That's all in my inner world. And a lot of that has to do with how I relate to my design. And the same is true for you. A lot of that has to do with how you relate to your human design, whether you know your design or not. See, that's one of the crazy things, right? Is your design is there and it's actually sending out this message, whether you know it or not. So there's a huge advantage to you when you actually, I'm just going to pull up a note here, get in alignment with your design, because then you know how to utilize this better for yourself. Okay, let me just see. Okay. So, yeah, do you understand what I'm saying? And the good news is, having done lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of readings in the last few months, is that oftentimes there's a lot of this that you already know. A lot of times when I do readings for people, one of the first things they say is, "This is very affirming for me." It brings forward things that I always knew about myself, but I never had language for. It helps me to understand aspects of myself that weren't really valued, when I was growing up, or aren't valued in the world that I'm living in right now, but I know are here and I know are important. It's actually one of my most favorite things to do with people when I do readings for them, is to help them to really get in touch with their intuition, often their inner knowing and their own core power and their strengths. And one of the key things regarding messaging has to do with we're actually designed fairly differently in terms of how to express ourselves. So your human design can help. So let me talk just for a few minutes about some of these. Now, this is pretty deep stuff, and there's no way I can go into all of it. Okay, so I'm not even going to try. This is material that I'm going to go much more deeply into in the program that I mentioned to you earlier. It's actually the same name, Messaging Made Easy with Human Design, Mastering the Energetics of Your Communication Style. And the very first module of it is Discovering Your True Potential. So that is the very first thing we're going to do in the first few classes, is dive into discovering your true potential. And it has to do with these aspects of your human design. So part of it is your type and your strategy. I mentioned earlier that I'm a generator and my strategy is to respond. And that is a super key part. Many human design teachers will tell you that if all you ever get, but really get your type and your strategy, and then, and I would say your authority, so know how to make decisions, all the rest of it, it's great. And you can get more and more nuance, but if you can get that, that is huge. Okay. I'll just say there are 5 different types. 70% of us are generators or manifesting generators. 20% of us are projectors. About 8 or 9% of us are manifestors, and 1% are reflectors. And every one of those types has a different strategy and has different ways of making decisions. And so understanding your decision-making process and knowing what your strategy is can make a huge difference in how you engage with every aspect of your life, and how you live your life, certainly how you do your business. I mean, one of the things I think that now, really reflecting on what was happening for me when I was building my business really fast, was I didn't know what my right decision-making process was. I was making decisions with my head. One of the things we say in human design is don't make decisions with your head. You're not designed to make decisions with your mind, which of course is totally countercultural. Right? We're taught all day long from when we're little kids, think it through. Is it logical? Does it make sense? Add it all up. Have a list of pros and cons. Right? Those are all logical ways of making decisions. And logic can be helpful, but our head actually doesn't have energy in it. There's no power in our heads. Our heads are for inspiration and for information and data collection and for some analysis, but they're not for decision making. Decision making has to do with other aspects, and for most of us who are generators, it really has to do with our body and giving us information. Our inner wisdom is coming from the body. Projectors is largely coming from them tapping into their own inner wisdom through being able to express themselves. And manifestors, it's, they kind of go for what they want, but they also need to be paying attention to what's going on in what we call their impact field. How is what they do going to impact other people? And reflectors, that's a whole nother story, which I'm not going to go into right now. Okay. But just getting back to this, so you type in your strategy, your decision-making process. These all can really help you. One thing I really have learned, I think I mentioned this earlier, is that timing is huge in human design. It's one of the things we really learn. And I realized if I had understood more about timing and known how to wait for the right time and trusted and have the faith that I would know and that would come through, everything would have been different for me. I think, yeah, everything would have been very, very different. Your circuitry, which I'm not going to go into here now, but it's hugely important to understand your circuitry because it'll help you know whether you're more of an individual type person. I'm a very individual type person, or a tribal person, or a collective person. Each of those has their own attributes, our own ways of knowing things, our own ways of acting in the world, and our role, our purpose. And so knowing that can really make a huge difference in how we communicate and how we understand ourselves. Our open centers, our open channels, our open gates, every part of our openness is a place where we are designed to be wise because we have lots of experience of taking in other people's energies and amplifying it and getting to experience that. For example, I have an open throat, and I have gotten to experience my throat be many, many, many different ways, being around lots of different people. I have 8 hanging gates. Those of you who are in human design might know what that is. And so I've been able, particularly when I'm around groups, this is one of the things that makes me a great teacher, is that when I'm around groups, I have many, many different ways to express myself because I hook up with different circuitry, and all of a sudden I have a lot of ability to articulate myself in different ways. So your open centers are hugely valuable to you in terms of where you can become wise. They're also the places where we tend to take in a lot of our conditioning. Excuse me. That's I spilled a little water. That's not 100% true in the sense that we also do conditioning around our definition, because, like I said, we may not value some of our definition, and we may reject it. And so then we get conditioned in that way. But then there's also your key gates and channels. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit at the end when I go into a little bit more about languaging and about crafting a message. But so, for example, I have the gate 51, which is known as the gate of shock, which means you can have shocking experiences and you can create shocking experiences, but it's also the gate of initiation. And I love that because I have both been initiated many times myself into new levels of consciousness, into new ways of understanding things, into new lifestyles, into new perspectives. But I also consider myself as a coach and a mentor, someone who initiates my clients and my students into new perspective, new ways of understanding who they can be in the world, what their purpose is, what the possibilities are. And so as I've learned that through my design, I've always known that I have that energy, but now I can really grab a hold of that energy and understand how to use it, and know that I also need to be mindful and aware so that I don't create shocking experiences of initiation, but ones that are more someone can receive more easily, and that they can integrate and that they can bring into their lives. So that's just an example. Okay, so these are all different parts of human design that can help you with your messaging. Okay, so your language does matter. And to be, it does matter because it needs to be compelling to other people. And I'm gonna come on in and just talk to you uh, full on for a minute here. The reason I wanted to do this is that, like I said, I've been a business coach, for people for quite a while, and I've talked to. I have a lot of colleagues who are business coaches and lots of friends who are practitioners and teachers and so on. And one of the things that I have seen people get trauma from or get really paralyzed by is this idea of having an ideal client or a target market. And you can see even that image that I created, even looks a little bit like, you could imagine that it's like a target. I just think about who's in your influence field, right? Who's in the field that you can influence. But sometimes people get really stuck at that point around, who's my ideal client. And so what I want you to know is there are things that you can learn, that you can do that are where you don't have to first know who your ideal client is, okay? The first thing you need to do is get all of you on board, right? You need to discover your true potential. You need to know what your gifts and talents are that come from your human design. And then you need to know what the skills and life experience are, which are your soul signature, so that you can really get your value. And when you do that, you can begin to radiate on an entirely new level. And that's magnificent when you do that. You become much more magnetic, much more attractive when you have that sense of self-ownership, personal sovereignty, really knowing who you are and what you have to offer. And you do need to find ways to be compelling for other people. Just looking at my notes here for a second. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to bring back on this slide here so you can see this in a sec. But there's some ways that you can, I'm going to tell you a few things to avoid. Okay. And then a little bit later, I'm going to tell you some of the things that you can do. All right. So let me just come back to this slide here. Okay. And if you do have questions as we're going along, please do put them in the Q&A there. I saw that there's just one in there, but so you don't forget, go ahead and put them in there. Okay, share. There we go. Okay. All right, so your language matters, and it needs to make sense in order and to be compelling to other people. Because remember, here you are, right? And you've got your own personal sphere of influence, and you've got the people who know you, and then you're wanting to have a larger reach, right? To be able to go out into the world. And you have to remember that other people are out there in their own worlds too, right? And their worlds are not the same as yours, right? They have a different flavor to their world. They have different ways of being. They have different things that they, different life experience, and so one of the key things is being able to find ways to communicate with people so that they can hear you. Okay, so there's a few things that you're going to want to avoid, okay, as you're speaking to people. So one of the biggest things that I have heard from people is trying to explain your modality or your process. Like somebody asks you, what do you do? And then you dive into, all of the different things that you do with a client when you have them. Okay. Like for a human design specialist, they ask you, what do? You might say, well, I teach people about their type and their strategy. Then I help them know what their circuitry is. Then I tell them about their gates. The channels are also super important. And then, if they're really interested, they might want to know about the hexagrams and how the hexagrams relate to the gates. And can you imagine? Like, that's like, what? I have no idea what you're talking about. Um, and sometimes people feel like they really have this compulsion to want to express the richness of what it is that they have to offer. But people can't take it in. They don't have your same experience. They didn't go to the school that you went to. They don't have the certifications that you had. So if you've been trying to do that, don't just stop trying. It doesn't work. So don't try it. Being too technical, right? Even if you say just a few words, just if you use language that is only known inside of the type of work that you do, unless you're talking to people who have already trained in what it is that you do, they're not going to understand you. And their eyes are just kind of going to glaze over. And that's when they're going to tend to turn away, or they're going to change the subject. Now, another favorite one of mine is blurting. Those of us who have open throats, which I do, have a tendency to blurt. I'm not the only one. Open throats aren't the only people who blurt. There's other parts of the design that might make you blurt, but it's basically about not waiting for the right time. Sometimes we're so eager to try to get our words in edgewise, we're really not paying attention to what's going on for the other person. When we do that, it's really annoying. People will either not hear what you have to say. I don't know if any of you have had that experience. I've had that experience where I blurted something out and it was like no one even heard what I said, which makes me feel invisible and totally unimportant. I hate that. Or they get annoyed because they weren't ready to hear what I had to say. And chances are it had a certain energy, right? I blurted it out because I was so eager to get it out there. And they might have felt like, whoa, what did you just do? So you want to really be paying attention to when is the right timing. Are people receptive to what it is that you have to hear? You need to get attuned to other folks and what's going on for them in order to be able to have them receive you. So these are all things that we're going to be going into in the program that I mentioned to you. So I'm going to talk about that program for a few minutes. I'm going to tell you how you can, what the kind of details are about it, how you can enroll, what the bonuses are, and then we'll come back for the last section, which is about more about your tribe, more about some of the things that you can work on without even knowing what your tribe is yet, so that you can work on crafting your language. Okay. So the course is called Messaging Made Easy with Human Design, Mastering the Energetics of Your Communication Style. And it is a live online program. So I'm going to be teaching it live. And if you want to go and check out the page, it's yoursoulsignature.com/messaging-course. I know a bunch of you have been waiting for me to get this information out to you. I thank you for your patience. I've been talking to you for weeks now about this course. So if you're ready, you already know that you want to check it out. You can go over there and take a look at it. It's yoursoulsignature.com/messaging-course. Okay. This course it takes place over 11 weeks. It starts in a couple of weeks, and it goes from November 17th to January 27th, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. But there are 4 main modules that are the course. The first one, we have an intro, an overview section where we're going to dive into some pieces of human design, things like type and strategy, decision-making process, and like that. And for those of you who don't know much about human design, I do have some videos that you'll be able to access on our membership site that can help you get up to speed with that also. Then the first module is Discover Your True Potential. And this is where you're going to use your human design chart. Everyone will get their chart if they don't already have it. You'll also get your circuitry. I've got a chart that shows you what your circuitry is. So you'll get to understand that piece. You'll be able to learn what your main channels are and your main gates are. And through that, you'll get to know what your genuine power is. To me, this is it's super exciting to really get what your power is and to stop suppressing your power. I mean, so many women I know suppress their power. I mean, let's face it, patriarchy has taught us to not own our power, not express our power. And I mean, have a lot of energy. I'm a very powerful woman, but I've learned to suppress it in all kinds of different ways. And knowing what my design is has helped me to be able to own it. But even like I said, around that gate 51, the gate of shock, which is also the gate of initiation, like that's a really important lesson for me to learn about that energy that I have, that power that I have, right? And so that's part of my soul curriculum. It's part of my evolution, is to learn how to move from what we call the lower expression, right, which is being shocking, to the higher expression, which is initiating. So that's an example of how you can discover your true potential and learn how to work with that. Because there's lots of ways that we can act, like blurting, like with my open throat. Like I've blurted a lot in my life, and I'm really, really learning now to wait for right timing. It's been a huge growth opportunity for me. So the very first module is that's what that's going to be about. The next one is raise your vibration. Now, this one really has to do with your conditioning, the places, and how your human design is going to show you the places where you've been conditioning and what you can do about that. Because when we're suppressing our energy, when we're rejecting who we really are, we lower our frequency. We often get depressed. We can be anxious. We can be uncertain. Because think about it, right? If we're not in connection with and expressing our authentic self, there's going to be a way that we're not going to feel grounded. Right? We're not going to feel our own power. We're going to feel a little bit unstable and a little bit at odds. We're not going to be sovereign of who we are. And so that next module, and there's 2 classes, both in that first module and the second module, it's going to be all about that. It's about raising your vibration. I have lots of different ways of showing you how to do that, and different practices that I'll give you, from clarity breath work, different embodiment practices, and so on. I love that stuff because, as I said, I've been in spiritual healing for a long time. Then actually between mid-December and mid-January, we're not going to have any live classes. I mean, this is a holiday period. We do all kinds of different things, whatever your spiritual tradition or religious tradition is. There's pretty much a holiday, whatever your persuasion is, during that time. And so we're not going to have any live classes. It's a chance for you to work more with the material that we've already covered. We'll have had 5 classes by then. But I'm also going to be providing 4 different videos on finding your sweet spot. And that does have to do with this languaging piece. It has to do with your soul signature. It has to do with the other material that I'm going to come back to a little bit later, which is, even if you don't have an ideal client, how can you start to learn to work with benefits, understanding the types of challenges that most of your clients had, what are the types of outcomes that people have, and so on. So we're going to dive into that. So you'll be on independent learning for those 4 weeks. It's not a huge amount of work. You could catch up with it in the last week, which would be the second week of January, if we're going to take those 3 weeks off. But I wanted to kind of keep us going. And for those of you who are really, wanting to move forward, I will be providing material before that. Then we'll come back, have a couple more classes on the last module, and that's on creating compelling language. And then I'll be giving you some what I call mini projects to work on. They're not complicated. They're not difficult to do. That they are work for you to be doing to help you develop this language, for you to be diving a bit deeper into this material, do a little bit of research. And we have 2 Get It Done days during the last week of our program. And that is where, you can attend one or both, or not come if it doesn't suit your schedule. And where we work side by side. I'll be there at 3 different times during the day to provide coaching and a pep talk and feedback, and working side by side with other participants. And many times I've done this in a lot of my programs, people really like it if they can fit it in. So that's kind of the structure. Here we go. There's all of the different modules. Okay. And so let's see, what else do I want to say about that? Um, you know what I think I'm going to do? Oh yeah, I do want to show you one other thing. So I'm going to stop my share here. Never done this quite like this before. So hold on if I make a mistake. I got this here. So what I want to do is just show you a couple of things from the registration page itself. Just going to close out for now. Okay. And then I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to come on here. Okay. So this is the registration page, and I'm not going to go over all of it. You know, it's got a lot in it, so you can go ahead and take a look at it at your leisure. It's got the dates here. We meet on Mondays at 5 p.m. The classes run for 60 to 75 minutes. They'll be on Zoom. They'll be recorded. Here are the class dates, the dates for independent learning, the dates for Get It Done. But I wanted to show, this is the part I wanted to show you. These are all the parts of what you're going to get in this course. So you get 8 live classes, as I just mentioned, on those 4 modules. You get video recordings. You'll get to watch those online. You have audio recordings, and you can listen online, or you can download them if you want. You'll have PDF of all of the slides. Okay, so basically everything from the classes will be available to you. Then you'll have those 4 training videos that I mentioned that will have to do with finding your sweet spot, and the 2 Get It Done days. And then, as I said, there's going to be a variety of different additional materials, particularly on human design, for those of you who want to get up a little bit more to speed with that. We will create a Facebook group where you can connect with other participants. You can ask questions. You can share your wins, your ahas, and just support each other. You will get your human design chart, and even if you have your body graph, you probably don't have your circuitry, so I'll be giving you your circuit boards. And then we have a private membership site. So all of this material will be housed in a private membership site. And so it'll be really easy for you just to go back there, find the materials. We'll be uploading the videos and the audios and the PDFs within 24 hours, unless something comes up. But I plan to get them up for you right away, and it'll all be housed right there. And then, of course, you get expert guidance from me. And you'll see here, so there's the program curriculum, and you'll see that there's little deeper explanations about all of them here if you want to go over that. And then the investment for this is there's a pay in full. The regular price is $597, and so that's what it is right now. But I have a couple of bonuses. Let's see, do I want to, let me just finish this, and then I'm going to go back to the bonuses, okay? So the regular price is $597. You get all of that for $597. And if it's easier for you to pay on a payment plan, there's a 5-part payment plan, 5 payments of $147. Okay, so I want to make it easy for you. I want to make it accessible for you. And so this is the way that I've done that. But not only have I made it a reasonable price, I'm actually going to give you a couple of bonuses. All right, so let me go back to my other screen here. So bonus number 1 for the first 10 people to register will be a 30-minute human design reading with me, focusing on messaging. So even if you've had a human design reading with someone else, or you had an intro reading with me, this one will be much more in-depth, particularly around this topic. And I'll be helping you identify the key parts having to do with your messaging. We'll identify your gifts, your core assets, your potential liabilities, and how to turn them into assets, and then how to maximize your effectiveness in your communication. Okay, so I'm really excited to be able to offer this. I want to make it easy for you to say yes if you're excited to do it. And I couldn't offer more of them because I just don't really have the time. But what I also have, bonus number 2, and this is for everyone, is $100 off the registration price. And that's $100 off whether you do the pay in full or whether you do the payment plan, okay? So that'll bring the investment down to $497. You just use the coupon code EB100. So you'll see when you go on there, it says have a coupon code, use it at checkout. So you want to click on the register here, and I'll bring up another window. I'll have a place in there when you can put in the coupon code and make sure to kick the submit part, and it'll lower your pricing. On the payment plan, same thing. It'll take $100 off the total price. So when it puts it in there, you'll notice it'll take $20 off. It'll bring your payments down to $127 instead of $147. So it's $20 each of your 5 payments. So that's your $100. I hope that makes sense. So again, if you want to go and check out the page yourself, it's yoursoulsignature.com/messaging-course. And if you want one of those readings, you might even want to go and do that now. I will. We're going to go about another 15 minutes. That's what I said, about 75 minutes of presentation, and then I'll stay on to answer questions, whether it's about the material I'm covering tonight or whether it's questions about the course, about the program that I'm offering. So please do put those into the Q&A or write them down and share them later. And I'm happy to stay on as long as we need to get everything covered. Okay, so I'll take a big breath. And I'm taking a sip of water. All right, a lot of material covered tonight. Okay, so as I said, you're in the world, we're all in the world with other people. And one of the things about messaging is we need to be able to move outside of our own way of thinking, our own way of understanding things, to be able to connect with other people. We need to be able to go more into their shoes. So in effect, it's like being able to move out of our own little sphere and come over more into what's going on in that person's life, if that makes sense, right? Sometimes I call this relationship marketing. Sometimes I call it empathy marketing, right? It's about being able to put your perspective, your awareness into the life of another person and get what their challenges are, get what what it is that they're really longing for, so that you can understand and speak to that. This is one of the reasons that, for a lot of people, and this is not 100% of the time at all, but in many cases, some of your best clients or students are people who have challenges that you once had, right? Earlier in your life. So, because you've been through that process of being through that challenge and you've gotten on the other side. And in the process of that, you've gained a lot of wisdom. You've learned a lot, and you can really understand what their challenges are. So that's one place to go when you're thinking about how do you start developing that compelling language. And you want to think about the challenges that people have. And what are they really longing for? If you can look back in time and you can see yourself and other people, and you can remember what that was like. Like, I remember what it was like trying to act like a manifester when I'm a generator. Like, I remember what that was like. And so I know how we've all been programmed to work like manifestors, even though we're not, and what the pitfalls of that are. So I have a good idea about how to support people to not do that. That's just a simple example. Like I said, it's not true for everybody. Like, a brain surgeon doesn't have to have had brain surgery in order to be able to help their patients. Okay. But sometimes it can be really helpful. So some things to focus on. I have a typo here. What challenges do people have that they come to you for? Just forget that makes. What challenges do people have that they come to you for? Okay, so if you already have had clients or students, right, participants in your workshops, your retreats, then what brought them to you? Why did they come to you? What is it that they were looking for? What is it that they were challenged with? What did they hope to accomplish by working with you, right? And then what benefits did they get? We're actually working with you. Like, how did things change for them? What was the difference in their perspective? If you're in the health field, what changes happen for them physically, or if you're more in emotional healing or spiritual healing, right? What happened for them in their emotional lives, or in their spiritual lives, right? In the personal growth fields, what potential were they able to realize that they kind of maybe suspected was there, but they were never able to really get a handle on? So one of the key things we're going to focus on in the course is this right here, is benefits. Because when you can start to learn how to identify benefits, I know, having worked with lots of clients in business coaching before, that benefits and then the outcomes, the ways that people's lives have changed, the results. These are some of the hardest things for people to really get wrap their minds around. And so I love working with people on this because I'm really good at it. And actually, if you go and you look at the messaging Made Easy by Human Design, that registration page, you'll see the whole top part of it. It's all about exactly this. It's about challenges, benefits, and outcomes, potential outcomes. So you'll see it's not really about the human design system at all. It's about why you would want to do this, what you're going to get out of it, right? And what are going to be the main changes that could happen in your life when you do this. So that's what I really want to teach you to be able to do, is to identify that. Now, you don't have to initially focus on an ideal client. You can focus on the clients that you've already had. And you can actually come up with an ideal client by focusing on the people you've already worked with and your favorite people that you've already worked with. Okay, so I have a whole set of strategies for how to do this. And I just want you to know it's not rocket science. And I do not want you to feel like you're getting put into a box. That is the last thing that I want. I really want you to feel authentic when you're doing it. And so when I teach you this material, my focus, I want to say my promise to you, but I'm a little, you have to be willing. If you're willing, my promise is to you is that you can feel authentic being able to develop this language. So now, if you do already have an ideal client, you know who your tribe is, or you want to develop that, okay? Again, I don't want you to panic, and I don't want you to go into paralysis about it. But if this is something you're actually excited about and you feel like, yeah, I want to do this. And what I can say is coming up with the challenges and the benefits and the outcomes and results is actually easier when you have a more focused person, or set of people that you are focusing on. And they're also your tribe. They're the people that you want to teach. They're the people you want to mentor. They're the people that you want to communicate with on a regular basis, right? They're your people. They're your peeps, right? So the things that you need to know about them are, what are they moving away from? Okay. What are the pains, problems, or issues that are driving them to seek support? Now, the thing is, unfortunately, most people take action when they're uncomfortable, or they're in pain, or they've gotten frustrated enough or disappointed enough, and they're like, I've had it. All right, enough already. I'm going to go and get some help. I wish that it were different, but it's not. And I even think about my own behavior. I can be that way too. So we do need to know what those things are. We don't have to beat them over the head with it all the time. But when you can do what I call illuminate the issue, one of the beautiful things that happens is that your people then go, that's me. They know that you're speaking to them, and they know that you understand them. It's a really compelling thing when somebody goes, you're talking about me. She's talking about me. That's me. So when you illuminate the issue, when you're able to go in there and you're able to say, even like I said at the very beginning of this, do you have trepidation? Do you have fear, or are you uncertain when somebody asks you what you do? right? Or do you even have your elevator speech down, but somehow you know it's not right because people turn away, or they change the subject, or their eyes glaze over, or they don't understand, right? I know that some of you who are on here, you've had that to be true. And so I know what that's like. I've felt that way too. So I get it. So that's me moment. If you felt that, that's what I'm talking about. And what are your ideal clients? What are they seeking or moving toward? What desires, outcomes, and results do they most want? Right? What are they longing for? What are they moving toward? People who are more dedicated to an evolutionary path, in my experience, tend to be more moving towards something than they are trying to move away. So you need to kind of see what that's like for your people. Chances are you'll have people all along the spectrum, but it's good to know that. So you want to know what people are moving away from and what they're moving towards. And then the last thing is, are they ready for change? Are they ready for change, and are they willing to invest in getting the change that they really want, right? Because you don't want to focus on people who aren't ready and people who aren't ready to invest with you. I just want to say that right now, because that is painful to, and I've heard this from people so many times. They'll say, oh, but those people they need what I have. I'm like, yeah, they probably do. I don't doubt it. But do they want it? Are they willing to take it? Are they willing to change? And are they willing to invest in it? Are they willing to pay you? And are they willing to pay you what you're worth? Because that's a key component, key criteria for your ideal clients in your tribe. Now, my experience is you can have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of people in your tribe over the years. I've had thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people in my tribe over the years. Only some of them are ever going to work with me. Okay. I create lots of free content. I will continue to do so. I love to educate. I love to help people. And so there's lots of ways that you can create free content for people and send that out to people who are interested. Okay. They can be in your tribe, but they're not really your ideal clients. Your ideal clients are the people who are like, yes, I want to work with you. I'm ready to work with you, and I'm willing to invest, and I'm willing to pay you what you're worth. Okay. Those are the people who are really they're going to be coming into that inner circle, right? You have that orange circle, and then they're going to be in that blue circle that's right there, okay? And they're the ones you're going to be working with. And there's going to be lots of people in that green circle who may never come closer than getting your free content or going to a free event that you do. And that's okay too, because you're still providing for them. You're still giving great value to them. Okay. So human design does, there's lots and lots and lots and lots. This is just a few. And this is going to sound jargony to those of you who don't really know the chart. So forgive me, I'm not going to go into depth about this. But there are lots of supports in the chart for you to be able to understand, both to be able to do this, what I was just talking about, develop that empathy, develop that ability to understand other people. But then also, once you do that, how do you actually craft the words? What's your own way of being able to express yourself? Like I said earlier, mine is kind of an initiation. I like to initiate people. There are other people who are storytellers, right? They have the gate 33. They're a natural storyteller. I'm actually a storyteller also. Some people are more listeners. They really listen, and people love to share with them. And then once they've listened, then they can turn around and offer some advice and make an invitation at that point. There's a lot of markers for empathy. All of the openness in your chart are ways that you can tune into people and pick up what's going on for them. And that can help you with the strategies that I was talking about. The 2644, which is here as creating the right environment and mastering invitations with integrity, that's known as the channel of sales. And both of those are super helpful for you to learn how to craft your language. Creating win-win agreements. That's another channel. It's called the channel of the bargain, right? So if you have either the 40 or the 37 or that whole channel, that's a great way to be creating aspects, agreements that are going to work for everybody. Which, I mean, after all, what is an offer? Like for me, like this program that I just shared with you, right? That's a win-win agreement as far as I'm concerned. Not everybody who is here, who's listening, who's here live, or who's going to listen to the recording later is going to go for it. That's okay. It's still a win-win agreement, and I'm happy to provide it. As I mentioned, initiating higher consciousness, that's one of mine. The money line, the 2145, okay? I actually have half of that. I have the 21. If you've got that, that's another great place for you to be looking at how you can craft your messaging. And then, of course, receptivity, right? Receptivity is huge. It's so important. You have to be willing and open and ready to receive in order for you to for your messaging really to make sense. Because if you have too much energy that is going out and is too aggressive and is too initiative and not enough that's receptive and allowing in, you're going to have almost like an energetic shield that people are going to bounce off of. And it's going to really inhibit your success. Okay, there's lots more, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a taste of what's possible when you dive more into your chart. And those of you who do have your chart and understand human design more, you can take a look at some of these things for yourself already. All right, so let's take a big breath. Okay, right on the dot, 75 minutes. So I just want to remind you, there's a bonus for the first 10 who register. 30-minute human design reading with me focused on messaging. We'll get to identify your gifts, your core assets, your potential liabilities, and turn them into assets, and how to maximize your effectiveness in your communication. Just go to yoursoulsignature.com/messaging-course to register. And then for everyone, now this is, oh, you know what? I didn't put this on here. This is only good through Friday. This is good through Friday. I need to mention that. I'll put that in the follow-up. It's good through Friday, November, 8th? No, when is it? It's the 8th. Okay. This bonus is just good until Friday. I should have told you that before. I'm sorry. So you have a few days. One of the things I wanted to do was to honor those of you who are emotionally defined, and you need a few days to make a decision. So I'm going to give you a few days. You have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday until the end of business to make a decision and still get $100 off the registration price. You just need to make sure to use these coupon codes EB100. It's a pay in full, and there's actually not a space in there. It's just EB100 or Plan 100 if you're going for the payment plan. Okay. Phew. All right, that's what I had to share with you. It's getting kind of dark in here, isn't it? Let me see if I can get on my light in there. Okay. So that's what I had to share with you for tonight. And now I want to answer your questions. Okay. Oh, thank you. Yay. Thanks, everybody. All right. So let me come to the questions. So if you do have questions, please do pop them in there and I will go through. All right. Okay. So from Jill, she says, I'm going to put on my glasses. How did you work with creating this webinar? Did you respond to something versus initiating it? Can you walk us through how that unfolded for you? Oh, that's a great question. Okay. Let me see. What do I want to say about that? So even though I'm a generator, I have a lot of life experience at this point of generating classes. I mean, I was a professor. I've been teaching since 1986. Okay, I'm going to tell you how old I am. Literally, I've been teaching since 1986. So when I first learned how to teach, I was responding because I was a graduate student, and I had a deal, which was I had I don't remember how many years it was. I guess it was 5 years of teaching, which was enough to live on. basically paid my tuition, and it was enough to live on. And so I was offered this deal. It's like a scholarship. I had a scholarship the first year, actually. And then after that, I had 5 years that paid my tuition. And then and then I had to teach. So I was offered the deal, and I responded to the deal, and I said yes. And then I had to, I got to teach, and then I got to say yes. And so one of the things I want to say is, whatever your type is, if you enter into what you're doing correctly, then you can take off with it. Okay. It's not like you have to respond every single day to every single piece. Okay. So over the years, I really honed my ability to teach, because then I was a professor. So I taught for 5 years. Then I was an adjunct professor while I was waiting to get my full-time job. Then I had a full-time job, and I taught full-time. So, I had that under my belt as my first career. All right. So that was one piece. So I want to say that I programmed myself to do that in response for a long time. So that was, particular for me. But in addition to that, Jill, what I want to say is this course, this webinar and this course that I'm offering all came initially in response to when our teacher, Karen, went on vacation over the summer, and she offered to her advanced students to be able to do one of the quantum alignment shows. And I went, oh, I'd love to do that. So I did one. And that one was on 3 keys to gaining greater visibility and recognition, which is also one of my signature themes, as well as messaging, that I used to do when I was, a business coach. And so I responded to that. And in that, I offered people to do intro readings with me. And I got a lot of people who wanted to do intro readings with me. And then I did another one in September. Again, another slew of people who wanted to do readings. And in the course of my talking to people, I realized that there were a lot of people who needed help with messaging. And so it really came out of my readings with people and realizing what it was that they needed. And then I started going, wow, I want to help people with messaging. And that became the topic of my second quantum alignment show. And so I feel like every step along the way, when I'm kind of starting the next phase, it's a response. And at this point, I'm responding to a lot of you who told me that you wanted help with your messaging. Like I said, a lot of people I did readings for were like, oh gosh, I would so love to have somebody who could teach me to do messaging and help me build my business, who understands human design, because I love human design. There's not that many people out there that are putting those two things together. So I was really responding. But again, I want to reiterate, you just have to enter into it correctly. And once you're going, you can go. Like I think about Barack Obama, who's a projector, right? And so he has to wait for the invitation. I don't know when his first invitation came, but once his invitation came, I mean, he was full on. He didn't have to wait for an invitation every time he went out on the campaign trail to go out and give a speech, right? I mean, he can, act pretty full on once he was responding to that initial invitation and once we respond. So the thing I would say is that I stop and ask. I do use my my authority and respond to that. So when I'm wondering whether or not, when I was questioning whether or not I would do this course or do this webinar, I definitely asked my sacral, and it was like, I'm like, you sure? Do it now. I was like, okay, really? Okay. I even did it like, how many modules should I have? Should I have 4? Should I have 5? Should we do it over the holidays? I'm not so sure. Should we definitely do it then? Okay. I guess I can find a way to make that work. Okay. So I definitely use that all along the way. Okay. Maria. Hi, Maria. Please say more about soul signature. Okay. You know what? I want to just see. I have a couple just technical questions here I want to answer, and then I want to come back to that. Okay. So Maria, I'm going to come back to that. When are the live classes? All of that is on the page. They're on Monday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific. Okay. And there starts on, so go to the page and check it out. It's yoursoulsignature.com/messaging. You know what? I'm going to put it in the chat. yoursoulsignature.com/messaging -course. Okay. And that has all those kinds of details on there. Kimchi, I'm not sure why you can't go there. Try this link if you still can't get on. I did give the coupon code. Okay, so the coupon code, let me put it in here. Coupon code for pay in full is EB100. And for the payment plan is plan 100. Okay. All right. Yeah, and I don't know who you are, MP, that you say quick sign up bonus isn't fair for those of you who have longer authority. So that actually is why I made the second bonus. So the first bonus is the quick bonus, right? The first 10, because honestly, I couldn't do more than 10. But I made another bonus. So you have until Friday to still get $100 off, okay? And I don't even know if the 10 one will be gone by tomorrow. I mean, you can always try, and I'll let you know if you're one of the first 10. I actually did take that into account, and that's exactly why I didn't make the $100 off good for like now or 24 hours or something. I gave you a few days, so I hope that that's gonna work for you. Okay, so Maria, let me come back to Soul Signature. So Soul Signature is a body of work that I developed 10 years ago. It came out of my work initially in clarity breathwork, after having worked with lots of clients and also trained breath workers. And I was really looking for the themes that came up over and over again, and how could I help people reach their full potential? And at that point, what I came up with is your soul signature are your gifts and talents that you brought in from your other lives, okay, that you brought in with you. Your skills, which are the things that you have really delved into in this life. You've trained in, maybe you've gone to school in, you've gotten certifications in, or maybe you just self-taught. You just practiced a lot, or you read your own books, and or maybe you apprenticed with somebody, whatever it was. But you developed often one of your gifts into a skill. Okay, and that's often where you have invested a lot of your time and your money and your energy are in your skills. So I really like to have people become aware of what those are, because we underplay them often. We don't fully value the amount of time and energy and money that we put into acquiring our skills. I mean, literally hundreds of thousands of dollars for me, and years, many years of study. I'm sure the same is true for you. I'm sure the same is true for everybody who's here. Is some very large amount of effort has gone into your skills. Then your life experience is what it sounds like. It's like, what did you learn over the course of your life? What are the things the challenges that you had, that you found your way through, as part of your soul curriculum, part of your evolutionary journey, right? And so you have very, very valuable kernels of wisdom that that you got from your life experience. And so your soul signature is made up of all of those. And now when I've come to human design, I realized, oh my gosh, human design has an incredibly accurate and revealing way of showing us what our gifts and talents are. It doesn't show us what our skills are, right? Where we spent our time and invested our money and our energy in this life. It doesn't show us that. And it doesn't show us our life experience. It can give us clues to where to look, right? But it doesn't tell us that. But what it does tell us is our gifts and talents, right? So when you put those together, you get an incredibly rich way of looking at your life and your development and who you are and your energy and your power and what's authentic for you and what you're here to do. And so I'm in the process of bringing, my body of work and soul signature together with human design. And so that is my next big project. And we'll be doing some of that in the messaging program. That's in the part about find your sweet spot. So there'll be some work on your soul signature in there. It's not a huge deep dive because that's not what this is. I do plan to do another program later, which is on your soul signature, which will be more about reaching your full potential. And that'll have human design in it also. So I hope that answered your question, Maria. If you want to know more, just let me know. Okay. And then, right. So here's another question. Can someone access what designs her clients are? I don't know what is involved in the process of determining that. Oh, okay, Sunny. Yeah, sure. You need a way to run charts. Okay. So that's one way. And then you need their birth information. So it's based on their birth information, just like an astrology chart. So it's the date, the time, and the place. So that's what you need. And then you need to know how to run a human design chart. I think if you go to freehumandesignchart.com, that's my teacher. There's a way you can run charts there as well if you want. Okay, great. Kim Joy, you figured it out. Nanette figured it out. I'm all signed up. Yay! That's awesome, Nanette. I'm happy. Okay, Naomi, as a generator, if I get a hit to say teach a class about something somewhere, is or could that be the universe asking me to do it? And then I can respond to what? Okay. So Naomi, here's the deal with that. I use myself as an example. Okay. Chances are, if you get hits like that, you're an intuitive person. I believe everyone's intuitive. I have a lot of intuition. I have a lot of the knowing circuit. So I get lots of downloads, about this or that or whatever. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I should go and take action on it immediately. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the right time. So what you're going to want to do as a generator, I don't know if you're emotionally defined or not, but you're going to want to ask your sacral, your right? You want to get in your gut, and you're going to want to ask, is this, should I teach this course? It's even better if you have somebody else ask you, okay, than you do. Should I teach this course? Is this the right time to teach this course? Will it be the right time to teach this course in the future? Do I need to wait for another sign, right? So you're asking your sacral, you're asking your authority. If you're emotionally defined, then you need to wait through your cycles to be able to ask that question a number of different times. The other thing is that you can start talking about your interest in teaching a class, or in your interest in the themes of the class, the topics, to people, and see if anybody goes, oh, I would take that class, or I want to take that class, right? Another reason that I started teaching more, Jill, to your point, if you're still here, is that I started having people asking me to teach about human design. I was telling people that I was training as a specialist. Before I started doing full-on readings, I was doing reading for friends and just doing short little things. And people are like, yeah, I would love to have you teach. So I already had some pent-up demand for teaching by the time I started doing it. So Naomi, tell me, write in and let me know if that answers your question. I always like to check with your authority, okay, before you necessarily go ahead. Because the thing about teaching a class, right, it's like you don't want to go and develop a whole class, put all that energy into it, and it's not the right time, And I have I'll tell you a little story that's related to this. I was doing a reading, a full reading for a former business client of mine. And she was telling me about how she had trained in a certain modality. And how she had gone out and set up doing groups. And very few people came to her groups, like 1 or 2 people came to her groups. And she had the idea, well, maybe I'm just not supposed to do these groups. Maybe this just isn't the right thing for me. That was her conclusion by the fact that she was not getting people coming. And I said, well, what was going on in your life? Like, what was happening? She was like, oh God, my dad had died, all these other things had happened. I didn't even want to be offering the groups anymore, but I had rented the space. So I felt like I had to show up. One person kept coming, so I really felt like I had to go. And I said, well, sounds like it wasn't the right time. It's not that you shouldn't do it. It wasn't the right time. You didn't even want to do it. So you have to pay attention to that kind of thing as well, because just because you get a no now, it doesn't mean no never. It just might mean no, not now, right? Or maybe not everything is lined up, or maybe you aren't in the right vibrational frequency to be attracting people to the thing that you want to do, right? Don't know. So you want to be taking all of those different things into account. All right, last call for questions. Oh, Maria says Genetic Matrix has a free program too. The owner creator is a great guy, responds to inquiries quickly. Maria, do you know the URL for that? Anyway, you could probably just Google Genetic Matrix and get your free, and look up your client's charts there. I don't remember who asked that. I guess it was Sunny. So you could do that as well. And Naomi, thank you. You're welcome. Yes, and you're emotionally defined. So that does mean that you are going to want to be asking those questions at different points along your wave, so that you make sure that you get the right answer, right? Okay. Any other questions? Last call for questions. Anybody? Okay. All right. Yep. We're a little over what I thought about where I thought we would be. All right, everybody. I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you who have stayed on here till the very end. Really appreciate that. And also want to let you know, if you're interested in this program, but you have some other questions that you want to, or if you want to chat with me briefly about it, you can email me at admin. I'm putting it in the chat here, at ostaraexperience.com. Just email me at admin@ostaraexperience.com, or there's also a contact form at the bottom of the registration page. Just scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's a contact form in there that you can just put in your name and your phone number. And I think it has a place for your message too. And then, we can just jump on the phone. I'm not sure how soon I'm going to be able to do that, just because I have a bunch of stuff lined up here this week, but I will make it a priority to get back to you, because we do have the clock ticking on that $100 off. I want to make sure you get it if you want it. And I also want to make sure it's the right fit for you. I don't want anybody to sign up for this if it's not the right fit for you. I mean, it's a drag, there's a whole list of things actually at the bottom of the page that you should go take a look at. It says this program is not for you if, and some of them are like, if you have a habit of buying online programs, but then you don't use them, or you don't attend them, you don't use them, and they gather virtual dust, forever. Like, it's not right for you, or if you really don't have the time, then it's not right for you. You want to be able to participate. One thing I do want to say, because I saw that there was somebody here, I don't know if Caroline, it was you from Australia. One of the things I am thinking about doing is adding, if I do have a few people, no, actually the time works for Australians. That's right. It's one of the reasons I picked it. It doesn't work for Europeans. So I'll put this out, so they're not even on here now. I'm thinking about putting on like a Q&A in the morning a few times, like at 10 a.m. Pacific, so that Europeans could come on that, and then other people, for whom that's a good time too. So I may be adding some of that in if there's a desire for that, because I want to make sure that people do get support if they need it. Okay, all right, I really am done for now. Thank you, everybody. Many blessings, much love. Bye for now. Bye-bye.